Beast balance. After 20 years of service, and I kind of thought that I always knew that I was going to get out, that I wasn't going to stay in forever. Like, there comes a point in time where you know that your number is going to get called and it's time for you to go. And I kind of knew ahead of time that I was going to go. I wasn't going to stay in forever. So I did my time. I got out. And the whole time that I was in the military, I also recorded artists. I was engineering and doing music. And I never stopped from the time that I started. From when I went in, I met a friend of mine who introduced me to engineering and to producing and recording. And from that time on up until today, I've never stopped doing music. So I say that to say this, like, I knew back then that I wanted to be behind the scenes, and I'd stay behind the scenes because that's just kind of who I am as a person. I don't pat myself on the back to say that I'm going to be something that I'm never going to be. First of all, if I was going to be a rapper, I could never remember my lyrics. Number two, if I was going to be a singer, I could never remember my lyrics. And I don't like to be out front. Even growing up in a church and singing in the choir, I never liked to be up front. Like, when I was in the men's choir, they would always want me to lead a song. I just don't like to be up front. I like to be in the background. I like to assist. And that's just me. I can't get away from the fact that I like to assist. I like to help. And I don't like to be in front all the time. So I was going to never make it in the music industry, and nor did I want to. I don't like to be up late at night. About 10:30, 11 o'clock, I'm sleepy. So I need to be in the bed. I can't be in nobody's studio chasing behind artists. I don't like smoke. I don't drink anymore. All that smoking and drinking and all that stuff left me way in the time when I was in my 20s. By the time I was 21 and old enough to buy drinks, I didn't even drink anymore. So that should tell you something. So if you see my studio and you see that there's 40 machines in my studio, let me kind of explain a little bit of why it is that way. When I was in the military, my job was supply administration, and I was a supply chief. And in supply, you kind of deal with logistics of getting equipment in, issuing the equipment out to the Marines that need the equipment, and you always have an inventory in a warehouse. You always have everything documented on paper, such as serial number, serialized equipment, by its name and by how many that you got and how old it is, blah 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 blah. So you're in charge of making sure that when a Marine is ready to go to his next training mission or go on a actual mission, he has all the equipment that he needs, or food and all that kind of stuff, drones, blah blah blah. And so in my military career in supply and logistics, I love that job. I love to be in a mix, even though, when you think of having an office job, you still, as a Marine, you still have to go to the field. You still have to do the humps. You still have to shoot the rifle. You still have to do your duty. You have to stand guard. You got to do all the things that a regular Marine does. Still got to run PFTs. Still got to be physically fit. You got to do all those things, as well as holding a high position job. And in that job, I've held so many different billets, and sometimes I didn't understand why at the time I was given so many billets, but I understood that one thing about me is that I'm a one in, one way out kind of person. It's either right or wrong. And so anybody that hired me to do a job or put me into a position to do a job knew that I'm going to do the job right the first time. And if I couldn't do the job, I'd find somebody who can do the job and we'd get the job done. So my plans of being in the military forever wasn't gonna be forever. It was never promised to me. One thing about the military, one reason that I joined the military is that I knew that I had to have a career, and the only way that I can have a career is to go to college. So I promised my mother that if she allowed me to join the military and join the Marines, that I would get my college degree. And so that's exactly what I did. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration, and I have a master's degree in reverse logistics. And so I got 2 degrees, and my mother was able to see those 2 degrees before she passed away. And so I did check those boxes off of the promises that I made to my mother, that if you allow me to join, I'll get my degrees. And I got my degrees before she passed away. But anyway, on the upper note, I have 2 degrees in that, and then I also have 20 years of experience in logistics. And a lot of those jobs that I had was management jobs. A lot of those jobs were being in charge of a lot of special equipment, being in charge of money, being in charge of people. And so when you see my drum machines, that should kind of tell you a little bit about why I have so many drum machines. So I did a stint on recruiting duty. When I was a recruiter, I wasn't the best recruiter, but I loved the recruiting job. So much so that I was called to become a MEPS liaison. And so when I became the MEPS liaison, I took over for a gunnery sergeant who had the number 1 MEPS in the country. And so when I took over her MEPS, I was able to keep it the number 1 MEPS for 2 years in a row. And then my very, very last year, I think we came in like second. My very, very, very last year, as I was walking out the door, we were like the number 2 MEPS in the world. And so that should tell you pretty much what type of job we were doing in the MEPS. In my career, I've been a logistics chief. I've dealt with the financial part of the military, such as like travel coordinating, budgeting. I dealt with the budget. I had to have an amount of money that my unit would have to spend. I had to budget that money and tell my boss how much money he has to spend to do training and all those different types of things. On top of that, I was also a unit trainer for our annual training. That's everything that has to do with like drinking and driving, freaking PFT, CFT, all the training that a Marine has to do for his career. I was in charge of all that, making sure that happened. I was a urinalysis coordinator. I was an alcohol coordinator. Fleet vehicle GSA coordinator. Like all the vehicles that our Marines use. Like I was in charge of keeping track of all those vehicles in there, black boxes in there, government cars. Work with the Army Corps engineers when the Marine Corps branded all their offices to be one way across the board, across the whole entire Marine Corps. I worked with the Army Corps engineers in setting up a whole entire recruiting district with those types of freaking offices, as far as like furniture and painting and the way that it was supposed to be put together, all that kind of stuff. So again, like when you see me doing 30 things, that's because in my career I've always held 30 to 40 jobs at one time, and there was not a point in time where any of those jobs were not done correctly. So now on the end of that, and we'll wrap this video up. On the end of that, I also was a newly divorced father with 3 kids, and so toward the end of my career, I was a single parent, but I wasn't single for long, because then my wife came along, snatched me up, and she, during the infancy of my caring for the kids, she came in and she brought in a whole lot of relief. She brought in a lot of love. She brought in a lot of care in taking care of kids that wasn't hers, and she treated them as if they were her kids. But the biggest thing about my wife, what I really love about my wife, is that she poured into my music. She was the one who said, hey, you need to get legit with your music. You need to make sure your business is right. You need to make sure that your programs that you buying are legit. You need to make sure that you are buying those subscriptions. You are actually putting in what you put out. And so what you see today is largely, if I'm going to give props, it's going to be largely props to my wife, because she told me to go for it. And once I got the go ahead to go for it, yeah, it's all in the pudding. So what I want to say to you all with saying this, that I never was going to make it in the music industry, nor did I want to make it in the music industry, but I do want to have my production be known across the world. I want to, my dreams are to work with large artists. I want my sync licensings to blow up and catch up, and at the end of the day, I also want to just impart to the world that whatever you put your mind to, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. All you gotta do is put in work and stay at it, and don't quit. And at the end of the day, if you feel like you need to quit, take a break and come back to it. And I guarantee you that when you come back to it fresh, you'll be just as motivated as you was before to get to it. So again, this is your man Beats by Lonze, your drum machine specialist. And if you stayed on the video this long, I appreciate you and I thank you. And I want you to make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Alright? So with that being said, we're out of here. We'll catch you in the next video. Shout out to my brethren. El Jefe is in the building. Thank you to my brothers over there, Guada, Jeddah, Heaven, my man Beats by Wugga out in Ireland, my man Mo, wherever you may be in the world doing your thing, brother. I appreciate y'all, and we'll catch y'all on the next episode. Peace. What's up, Beats by Lonze family? Have you got your merch yet? If not, just click on the link, gurumerch.creator-spring.com.